Good evening everyone, Vez here, welcome to my channel. This video tonight is for all crazy speed lover out there running all-wheel drive system. We're going to take a look at how we can synchronize our motors together to avoid some issues and why it is important to do it. So let's just get started and try to make a quick one. So as you already know, in an all-wheel drive system like this one, we have 4 motors and they work in pairs. So there are 2 motors on the same belt on each side, in diagonal that one and diagonal that way. And it's really important to synchronize motors together running on the same belt. It's also a good thing to do all motors together, but if we only do it in pair, that's good enough, I think. So the reason why we do this is to avoid unnecessary load on those motors, because they are stepper motors, and when you energize them and move them, they will jump by steps. You know, and if they're not synchronized, if they're not a synchronization between those, it's gonna create a tension on one side of the belt and a loose on the other side of the belt, causing unnecessary load. They will fight a bit together, and that is not good. It's gonna create printing artifacts that we don't like to see and cause, like I said, unnecessary load on the motor. So it's best to synchronize them, and I'm gonna show you how I do it. And it's also in the build manual, but I thought it would be better to do a video to show you how I do it, because it's not necessarily simple. And we're gonna jump right into this right now. So let's just start with that. All right, so there we have that printer, and I'm gonna start by telling you that this is a lot more, or a lot simpler, if you do this step before you assemble the gantry. Don't do like me. Well, this is something I've learned after. So yeah, on my side I didn't do it, but first, when you assemble the gantry, make sure you do not install the motor pulley or motor gear on the, well, we call that a D cut on the motor shaft. It's, you can see that right here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but yeah, you see that D cut. It's a flat spot on the motor shaft that will allow you to secure the gear properly to the motor. We're not going to use that on a all-wheel drive system, simply because we need to be able to synchronize and move that gear to the auto positioning. So if you did that, well, it's not a big deal. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So the first thing first, VZ235, the motors in the back are a lot easier to do than the motors in the front because of the access here. You have an access here. It's doable from here, so we could as well do it, but I think it's just easier in the back because there's a nice cutout to access the gears on both sides. I think it's easier, but it doesn't really matter. We only need to do either the rear or the front. On the VZ330, it's a lot easier to just do the rear motor. So let's pretend we're going to do the rear motors, and that's how I'm going to do it now. So the first motors, the front motors, we're not going to touch. If they are using the D or the flat spot on the shaft, that's not a big deal for now. We're going to leave them like that. But we're going to make sure to synchronize this guy with this guy and this guy with this guy, because they work in pair. So the way to do this is, first thing first, we need to loosen the motor gear on both motors in the back. And since we're using the flat spot, at least like now, everybody probably have mounted their pulleys on the flat spot. We need to make sure we're not doing that. So we're just going to start by loosening it. It's very simple. If you move this guy in this direction and this guy in this direction, it's going to move motor. So just move it until you see the, like that, so you have access to this guy, and you do the same thing on the other side. You move it diagonal in the other direction, So that will give us access to those 2 screws. Then we just loosen them up. Okay, now that the 2 gears are free to move on the motor shaft, it also means that the flat spot is on the back, and we need to bring that flat spot to the front. That way we can bolt the gear on the round surface of the shaft. So we need that flat spot in the front. Before we do this, just make sure that you're not running too much tension on your belt, because the gears need to be spinning freely on, well, let me show you on this side. So I'm going to move the gantry, and as you can see, the gear spins freely on the motor shaft. Now, if it doesn't do that, loosen your tension. You have just too much tension, but it should spin like that. So now we're having the D shaft, the flat spot on this side. And in order to bring it to the front, we're just gonna use the printer own power. So I like to do is do a home, just gonna home Y, and we could have stopped it there. What we're gonna do now is use the printer and move it by incremental. You can do that by 1 or 5 millimeter, but we're gonna move in X direction until we have the motor flat spot in the front. So I'm gonna put the camera here so you can see. So I'm gonna use 5 increments. Is it in the front? One more. All right, maybe we can do 1 millimeter. That is good enough. All right, and let's check the other side. So the other side is not. So now what we're gonna have to do is, let me unzoom, make sure that, well, we can shut down or disable motors like that. And we are going to use our screwdriver. Where is it? It's right here. And we know this guy is in front, so now we can go in the back and secure at least 1 screw. So we are just gonna move the gantry manually with the motor disabled. And like that, we're gonna secure this guy like that. So this side is done. There's 1 screw holding it, and we are sure that it's not on a flat spot. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're gonna home the printer again. Reactivate motors. Home X. All right. And move until we have that one facing the front. So move incremental 5. About there, maybe 1 more. That's good. Let me unzoom. And then now we're gonna disable motor again. Disable motor, so we can spin this guy freely and bring that, well, it's already there, but we're just gonna make sure about here, since now the flat spot is facing the front, we are sure we're not gonna bolt to this. So we are going to lock it in place like so. All right, now we just need to make sure that both sides are, so we're just gonna move it manually like so. All right, I'm just gonna double check the other side. All right, now we can loosen pulleys so it moves freely again. All right, and we're gonna check that we're still not using that flat spot. That side's good. That side's good. And now the magic, we just need to activate motors. And the way to do this, we don't want to home because that's gonna move motors and we don't want them to move, we just want them to energize. So there is a macro that we added to the printer, and it's in the instructions, and it's gonna be, where is it? Enable steppers. There you go. I don't know if you heard that, but all motors are activated and they are, energized. So all we have to do now is go in the back and tighten that pulley, that gear on the shaft. Very good, because it's not using a flat spot now, so it needs a lot of friction to hold up. And if you can't access the second screw, don't worry, just do one, then move the motor manually, and then do the other one. That's it. We are now fully synced together. This is synced together, this is synced together. And if you are a bit more crazy, you can do the whole same setup, but do the front as well. So make sure everything is not using the flat spot. Make sure it's going to be touchy, I'm telling you, but it's doable. And then you make sure that you have access to that pulley and everything together. And then you activate motors and you loosen all pulleys, you activate motors, then you tighten all the pulleys. So now that we are all synchronized, we are good to go and good to enjoy the all-wheel drive power. So, it was a bit long again, sorry about it. A bit complicated, but not that complicated. So I hope you can now tune your all-wheel drive system like that and enjoy it. And thanks for watching, guys, and see you on the next one. Have a good night, everybody.